And now, Lifestyles Unlimited presents the Real Estate Investor Radio Show. Over the next hour, we unfold your map to financial freedom. You'll learn how to retire through investing in single-family and multifamily real estate. You'll learn how to create cash flow and build wealth so you can have the time and money to live the lifestyle you want.
Welcome to the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show. I'm Mike Harrison, and yes, we are always working on your financial freedom. It's my privilege to be joining you today. And as always, if you miss any part of the show, you can always find us on our website, lifestylesunlimited.com. You can find us on YouTube, the Lifestyles Unlimited channel. And please subscribe to our podcast. It is no charge. It's free. And our podcast, you can find it on your podcast app on your smartphone. Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show. Hit subscribe and it will upload automatically and you can catch the show in your free time. I'm very excited to share today's show. I hope you enjoyed as much as I enjoyed putting it together. But where I want to go is I want to bring some ancient wisdom to the show and apply that wisdom to financial behaviors in our society today, especially in regard to wealth creation. So I call this show The Wolf or the Shepherd. And there's an African proverb that is hundreds, if not thousands of years old. And it goes like this. It says, "The sheep will live their entire life in fear of the wolf, only in the end to be devoured by the shepherd." Very true. I came across this proverb several weeks back. It's been in my mind ever since. And upon hearing it, my mind was racing. I knew I had to work this into a show. And yes, I'm going to relate this to real estate investing. Obviously, stick with me. This is a real estate investment show. But back to the proverb. And when you hear that proverb, you may be thinking one thing. Stay with me. I'm going to unpeel it over the next 40 minutes, and I'm going to share with you what it really means in light of who we are as people that are trying to create wealth, right? Money is not the goal. Let me clarify that. Money is not the goal. Financial freedom is the goal. Money is only a means, right? It's a ticket to essentially to financial freedom. It's a ticket to peace, love, joy, health, wealth, and happiness. It's a means. So money is not the goal, okay? Let's understand that going forward. Financial freedom is the goal. Now, at face value, that proverb is very true, right? The sheep fear the wolf, but they're fearing the wrong thing, right? They should be fearing the shepherd, but they fear the wolf. And whether or not there really is a wolf out there, I can imagine maybe the shepherd's clan had cleaned out all the wolves decades ago. There might not even be a wolf, but it's just a behavioral characteristic of fear, right? It continues on through the generations of the sheep. And because they fear the wolf, the sheep really, they give themselves totally to the guidance and the care of the shepherd. And then one by one, at the end, for the benefit of the shepherd, the sheep is slaughtered. Now think, if only one or two of those sheep had said, this is insane, man. We stick around here, we're going to get whacked. I'm going to try my chances with the wolf and run off into the wild, right, on their own. Now they would be without the protections of the shepherd, but they would also be free from the shepherd's rules, right? They'd be free from the shepherd's boundaries. They'd be free to roam, to graze, free to explore, free to live, free to multiply. Would that life be dangerous for the sheep? Possibly. But would they be free? Absolutely. And like I said, is there even a wolf out there, right? The unknown fear, only one way to find out. I'll tell you this, the sheep in the herd, they don't seem to be asking any questions. They're just going along to get along. I mean, none of them have spoke up and said, hey, have you seen a wolf? Do you know of any sheep that have actually been attacked by a wolf or eaten by a wolf? No, they don't even ask. They just go along to get along. Now, for the point of the show, who are the sheep? Well, I see the sheep as American society, as a society of conformists. You see, Americans by nature, we are obedient people. We're conformist. It's our culture. It's been ingrained in us to follow direction, right? To listen, to do what we're told. But unfortunately, because of this, a huge part of our society has really devolved into a group that lacks critical thought, right? We've devolved into a group that blindly follows societal norms, blindly follows trends. There's very little, if any, independent thought anymore, right? Let's say the quiet part out loud. Let's start telling the truth. Let's stop being sheep. And speaking of sheep, the African proverb I came across a few weeks back, it's been eating at me since I heard it. And the way this proverb goes, the sheep will live their entire life in fear of the wolf, only at the end to be devoured by the shepherd. How true is that? How many different ways can we apply that? Well, let's get into some of it. Let's start with American society. We have become consumers of information, easily influenced by external factors, right? Media, peer pressure, prevailing opinions. I've told you before, I was that guy. I used to read Money Magazine. I had, The Economist, right? My father used to buy me a subscription to The Economist every year for Christmas. And I'd read it. There's a lot of great information in there because I was a consumer of information. I was influenced by the external factors of the media. I thought that the way you got wealthy in this country was to work for 40 years and feed a fund 20% of everything you make and sacrifice and put off everything you want to do in your life. And then I started realizing that many of these sheep, it wasn't working. They weren't retiring when they were 60 or 65. They were continuing to work. Why? Because they realized they didn't have enough in their fund, in their 401k savings plan to live the life that they had always been told that they were going to live. But the thing is, very few people stood up and spoke out and made a change. And I'm brave. I'm so happy that I was brave enough to personally make the change, right? To change directions, to become a real estate investor, to say, well, this way isn't working. I need to do something different. And that's when I started buying rental property. And eventually I found my way to Lifestyles Unlimited and started buying rental property properly. What a difference. It's one thing to own it. It's another thing to own it with an effective plan, right? It's another way to own it and make it work in the most maximizing way possible because as a group, we network, we share information, and we utilize the best practices. It's amazing. It was the difference of literally between trying to use a butter knife to cut something and trying to use a diamond blade chainsaw or something along those lines. Two different ways. So Lifestyles Unlimited was very powerful in setting me on a path of effective real estate investing. So I knew I'd found the vehicle. I just didn't know how to drive it to its maximum. And that's what Lifestyles Unlimited taught me. Now, another factor in the behavior of the sheep is fear, right? Pure fear. Even if the fear is unfounded or based on misinformation, fear is powerful, right? And like I said, there may not be any wolves out there at all, yet the sheep still fear the wolf. The wolf may have been wiped out generations ago by the shepherd's clan, yet the sheep still, it's part of their behavior, right? And one that maybe dares to venture out will be pulled back by the others. So the sheep, they seek safety and conformity. They prefer to align themselves with popular opinions, societal norms. They won't take perceived risk, right? Whether it's a risk or not, and I'll tell you, real estate when done properly is not a risk. And it takes independent thought to do real estate, to go, you know what, I'm going to do this different, and this is why I'm going to do it. The society doesn't like it. They don't like it. I'll prove it to you right now. 7% of us out there actually own a rental asset, a real estate rental asset. Yet 70% of all millionaires were created owning real estate. You put the two together. Only 7% dared to leave the sheep behind, dared to venture out and say, you know what? I am going to buy a cash flowing rental property. I am going to do something different. I am going to change my wealth curve. Only 7%. Yet, that means 93% said no. But if you told the 93%, hey, guys, your fastest way to become a millionaire in the United States is to invest in real estate, they still won't do it. There is comfort in going along with the crowd, right? The conformity, the fear of the perceived risk. And so most people have a sheep-like behavior. They fear standing out. They fear even being ostracized. Oh, you're the guy that owns rental property. Let me tell you, man, my uncle's cousin's neighbor's nephew, one time he bought a house, and you won't believe it. They destroyed it. The residents, they never paid rent. Everything that could go wrong, it almost bankrupted the guy. People will tell you everything that is bad or wrong out there because they want to pull you back into that crowd. They want to pull you back into the herd. So I don't want you to be stuck in the herd. I want you to be brave enough to change your life. And I'm telling you, the risk out there is no risk. If you do it right, there won't be a wolf.
Got questions? Call Lifestyles Unlimited at 855-497-4335. The Real Estate Investor Radio Show continues next.
Want to continue the conversation inside the community? Follow Lifestyles Unlimited on Facebook. Stay up to date on upcoming events, market trends, member stories, featured podcasts, real estate wisdom, and more. You can even join us a couple of times a month as we go live with our case study events right on Facebook from the comfort of your home. Get online and get in the know. Turn listening on the radio into participating in the community. Like and follow Lifestyles Unlimited on Facebook today.
Creating the lifestyle you've always wanted. You're hearing Lifestyles Unlimited's Real Estate Investor Radio Show.
Welcome back to the show. I'm Mike Harrison. If you have any questions or comments for me, or if you'd like to share a show topic or something you'd like to hear on the show, or even a question, please send me an email. My email address is askmike@luinc.com. And I am a real estate investor, both single-family properties and apartment communities. I began in 2011 when I decided that and I had a good job, a corporate job, and I was the 401k guy. I did everything I was told to do, and everything my parents told me to do, right? Even the people that love you the most don't necessarily always give you good advice. They give you advice from their perspective, from their personal truth. But I did come to a mathematical, logical conclusion that I wasn't going to have the amount in my 401k by the time I was 60 or even 65 that I knew that we would require to have a dignified life. So I began looking for alternatives. What is a different way that we could become financially free? What is a different way that we can grow wealth? Kind of stumbled into real estate. From there, did everything wrong, still made a great return on that first property. This is prior to Lifestyles Unlimited. Found Lifestyles Unlimited through the radio show, just like you listening to me here. Went to the free workshop. Okay, what's the free workshop? Well, you can participate in that. They're now online. They used to be in person, but if you're interested and you'd like to see what we do, how we make money 5 ways. How would you like to take $1 and have that $1 working for you 5 different ways? Well, a single-family rental property will do that. You can learn that at the free workshop livestream.com. And by the way, that same $1 invested in an apartment community, which is a business, right? It's valued differently. Well, that $1 can work for you 6 different ways within that business. And it's earning all along the way, right? Cash flow, mortgage pay down, equity capture. The tax advantages are just unbelievable. I've made as much on tax advantages than some years that I had, some of my best years in corporate America. And by that, it's just the tax that you don't pay on the returns that you've made. Now, we're not breaking the law in any way. We're following the laws as they were written. And we look forward to paying our taxes. We look forward to paying our taxes properly, legally, in the manner in which they're given to us. But because we are real estate investors, we have incredible advantages, right? The most taxed dollar is the dollar you make via W-2. It's been set up that way. That's how they want it. But you're getting hit. You've got your income tax right off your wages. You've got Medicare. You've got FICA. There's some state income tax. There's even some city income tax. Man, they're pounding that thing. But the dollar that you earn in real estate doesn't near have as many tax wolves coming after it, right? Because we can depreciate our property. There's so many different things we can do on the tax side. Just showing, something as simple as a phantom loss on a K1. It's a paper loss because you depreciate the property, even though you're making cash flow on the property. It's incredible. Okay, so those tax wolves are out there. If you want to avoid those tax wolves, become a real estate investor. And what I'm talking about is this proverb I came across a few weeks ago. And the way the proverb goes, it's an African proverb, hundreds of years old, if not thousands. And it says, the sheep will live their entire life in fear of the wolf, only at the end to be devoured by the shepherd. How ironic, right? The guy protecting us the whole time, he's the one eating us at the end, right? When we're no longer useful, when our wool production isn't putting out, when we're kind of feeble and we can't walk as fast as some of the other younger sheep, and when maybe we can't keep up with the crowd. So that's when the shepherd says, yep, you see that one right there, that one over there? Yeah, that's, Easter's coming up, and nothing like a rack of lamb, right? Let's put that sheep on the old barbecue and cook it up. So that's what happens. But really, it's people, they're going along to get along for many, many different reasons. Fear is a big one. More influential sources really are media, social networks, right? That's big right now. I mean, there's probably more driving factors for the crowd of sheep today than there ever have been, as far as you can think, right? There's so much bad information out there that just keeps spreading unfounded fears. And it's not just in the financial sector, right? I think if you're picking up what I'm putting down, it's everywhere. But really, the sheep, it's nothing more than a metaphor, and it conveys that lack of independent thought, a lack of emotion, a lack of individual agency in a situation. And Dale Walmsley, the founder of Lifestyles Unlimited, I think he's great at showing us that, you know what, the conventional wisdom world is broken. He shows us the paradigm. Are you going to go along and eventually be that person that's still working when you're 65, when you're 70, when you're 75? Or are you going to make a change today? Are you going to be the one that's brave enough to stand out from the crowd, no matter people close to you will shout you down, right? People in my own family think I'm a lunatic because I'm a real estate investor, okay? Understand that when you go on this path, the crowd is real. The sheep herd is real, and people are going to tell you, you're crazy. Why are you doing that? It's wrong. You're going to go bankrupt. And if you're educated and you're doing real estate investing properly, none of that is true. The proverb says the sheep will live their entire life in fear of the wolf, only at the end to be devoured by the shepherd. And that's so true. And I think financially, the good news is that people are starting to realize this, right? The shepherd's supposed to be Wall Street and the U.S. government and their plans for how we create wealth in this country. And as a society, Americans typically, we don't like to rock the boat. At least the majority of us don't. We're conformist. We go along to get along. 20% of all 70 to 74-year-olds, and I've said this many, many times on this show, work now. Okay, now don't point to the one retired admiral that just wants to stay busy and, he's got this little job over here, or the retired airline pilot. Yes, there are those people. Those are the exception, not the norm. Most are working. Why? Because they have to eat, because they have to pay the rent or pay the mortgage or what have you. But they're working because they have to, not for their love of whatever it is that they're doing. The labor force participation rate for people age 75 and older is expected to grow by 31% over the next decade. Wow. Is that the sign of the greatest nation in the history of mankind when our elderly are having to work more and more? No, the shepherd has failed us, right? That's the real wolf. That's the real wolf right there, is when you're 75 and you've done everything you're told to do and you're still working. That's terrible. Now, again, I'm not talking about the single digits that are just keeping busy. I can see myself keeping busy for the remainder of my life. That's just me. But I'm talking about these are people that have to work. Something has gone absolutely terribly wrong with the plan. The sheep have done everything the shepherd have told them. They've not gone against the grain. They followed direction. And at the end, the shepherd is eating them. You know, I've come up with a new thought, and it's harsh. And it goes like this. Never ask a working 65 to 75-year-old if their retirement plan worked out the way they envisioned it. Never ask them that. Why? Because if their retirement plan worked out the way that they saw it for decades, from the time they were a little kid, if it had worked out, they'd be living the lifestyle. They'd be retired, right? Wouldn't they? You wouldn't. They'd have been retired for a number of years now. You would know who this person is because they're the ones that are always smiling. They're the ones that are in a great mood. They're the ones that are doing whatever, playing golf, driving a nice car, telling you about their last travel experience, and also telling you about their next travel experience or about what they're working on. They're up early. They're go, go, go. They look great. They've got plans for the day, plans for the week, plans for the month. But that's not who these people are. So why embarrass them? Don't ask them. So the proverb, that proverb is literally, it's as old as time itself, and it can be measured to any part of any society, right? After all, a well-functioning society requires people to conform, to accept, to obey, okay? I'm not those that don't conform, accept, and obey. That would be anarchy, and I'm not calling for that either. That is absolutely worse. But I may be calling for a little bit of a rebellion, and occasionally a rebellion is good. Calling for a financial rebellion, a rebellion from the conventional plan, a rebellion that involves you buying assets and setting yourself up to be financially free, creating and being in charge of your own wealth, not the shepherd, not Wall Street, and not the government. So yeah, I'm calling for a rebellion. I'm calling for a rebellion for you to specifically go purchase cash flowing real estate assets. Go change your life. And if you want to learn how to do it, yes, this is Lifestyles Unlimited, and this is the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show. But if we're not good enough for you, go find somebody that'll teach it to you. Go find a mentor. Now is the time. I haven't seen opportunities in real estate like I'm seeing right now, literally since 2013 through 2015. Okay, the market has shifted to a normal market. It's not a seller's market anymore. It's a normal market, and there are deals to be had. Now, let's look at this proverb in the light of what is taught to be financially free. So the sheep are your typical 401k investor, your typical IRA investor, your go to school to get good grades, to get a good job, to set money aside for the future. The shepherd, that's the U.S. government, that's Wall Street, that's the conventional wisdom plan. Who's the wolf? The wolf really is a phantom, my friends. It's the phantom that devours the nonconformists. It's the phantom that comes after those that aren't doing what the crowd is. So you can go along and you can hope for the best, or you can change your life. And that is the decision that I made, my gosh, a number of years ago. I knew that I needed to change probably 3 or 4, maybe 5 years before I bought that first rental property. So I'm going to say in the aughts, 2004, 2005. And then it took me a while, right? It was hard to leave the crowd. It was very, very hard. Tell my wife, hey, we're going to take this money in this IRA because that's where my money was. First and we're going to convert it to a self-directed IRA. So we had to have that conversation and explain what that is. And at the time, it was even difficult to find somebody that would put together a self-directed IRA. And she's looking at me, well, why are we going to do that? So we can buy a rental property. Well, why are we going to do that? Well, we're going to do that because we're not going to have millions of dollars by the time we're 60 or 65 in our essentially in our 401k fund, in our retirement fund, especially with corrections, right? 2008 through 2010 took a big chunk out of that. So I was just coming out of that. So you can see where I was. So essentially the fears were unfounded. I can tell you this, once you kind of got into it and you left the flock and learned how to do real estate investing, there were no fears. There was no wolf at all. So the wolf represents unfounded fears. The wolf will drive people's investment decisions, right? The wolf might be fear of market crashes, which are real. Those actually happen, right? They call them corrections. And I hate that word. They're like, well, we had a stock market correction of 40%. Well, if it was a correction, something was wrong. So yeah, crash is a better term. Economic downturns are real. Societal judgment, when you deviate from societal norms and you become the real estate investor, there is judgment. I told you, there's people in my own family that think I'm a lunatic. There's close friends of ours that we've had for decades and decades, going back to high school and college days, that think I'm crazy because I'm a real estate investor. So it's just a different plan. And I know that we're on the flip side. I know that we are to the contrary, that we're not in the crowd of sheep, because the fact that only 7% of people out there actually own an investment property. 7%. I'm not talking about a second house, but 7%. So as a real estate investor, contrary to dealing with the stock market and the volatility, real estate for me, it's much more tangible, right? All my investments have an address. I can go touch my investments. I can go see them. It's much less intimidating once you boil down to what the sheep are doing, what the 401k are doing. They're gambling, they're risking, they're speculating, and we're not doing that, right? We're not part of the crowd. We're the nonconformist. We've taken control of our financial being. We are our own shepherd. We are the shepherd of our assets and wealth, of our cash flow, and our financial decision. And it's a much better plan, my friend. So are you going to be the sheep that gets devoured by the failed plan and still working? Or are you going to be the shepherd of your future? Always remember, it's not the money, it's the lifestyle. Make it a great day.
The information and opinions you hear on the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show are those of the hosts, guests, and callers. The Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show is for entertainment purposes only. Please consult a professional regarding your personal investment needs. Nothing presented constitutes an endorsement, recommendation, offer, or solicitation to buy or sell any product or security.